So who I have with me here right now is faculty Vern Morton, and I'm going to question him on what the computer has effect on his life over the course of his career and how it was first introduced to him. So, Vern,
okay.
When was the computer first introduced to you?
I was in the Marine Corps it was my MOS, which is the Military Occupational Specialty, and we were trained on. Basically, it was the first computers introduced to the military in 1971, and I went to school for it in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. We had I think it was 6 weeks or something. And the computers were only used by the air wings, so I had to get stationed at all the air wings. And for the most part, we had what we called a CPU, Central Processing Unit, and then we had, I think 3 or 4 output devices. One of them was a punch machine that punched what you call the first Hollerith code. If you look back in the 1970s, all the government paychecks were put out with a punched card. That card was a Hollerith code, and that was punched by a central processing unit where all the things processed, but then that output device was that punch card unit was a Hollerith code. The other ones were message trafficking, and they were all ASCII, because it was a 5-bit punch, what at the time was a punch tape or teletype, and then they converted it to the computer system, and an ITA2 code, which then they used for all message trafficking. So we sent all of our messages, top secret, whatever, with the computer, using those 3 codes: Hollerith, ASCII, and ITA2.
ASCII. How do you spell ASCII?
ASCI.
ASCI.
I believe that's what it was. And but it was basically my job was to repair the equipment. I was trained on those pieces of equipment to actually repair them when they went down. They weren't very good stuff. They broke down a lot. I got in a lot of trouble. One really good story was he had a young corporal in charge of the unit, and I actually was a young lieutenant, second lieutenant, because I was a sergeant at corporal, or I think a sergeant at that time. And we went down to Tijuana, Tijuana was south of San Diego. We went down to San Luis, which was south of Yuma, and got drunk. In the middle of the night, they called me up to fix it. And I didn't come in, they got all pissed off. They had colonels, 2 captains, and a lieutenant waiting for me when I came in the morning. And they were all pissed off because I didn't come in the middle of the night. And I said, well, what's the problem? I said, I knew what the problem was, and I said, you can't fix it for 2 weeks, I said. So I went in and I told them, I said, there's a little plastic gear. See that? That son of a bitch is stripped. And there ain't shit I can do about it. I can't order it till Monday. And when I do order it, you aren't going to get it for 2 weeks. So I said, what the hell was the big fuss about me coming in the middle of the goddamn night? And the lieutenant was all pissed off. And then I told him. Anyway, after it was all over, the captain come up to me and he said, next time they ask you to come in, he said, would you please come in? I said, okay. But we spent all night in San Luis, across the border, drinking beer. So I wasn't in any mood to come in when I knew what was wrong. But that's one of the stories. So,
well, from when you first started, the computer was not introduced yet?
No, the personal computer wasn't. That was military traffic.
When you started in 1971?
Military message trafficking is what it was. And that's all it was that we used it for. That was 1971. The first personal computer was 1982, because Penny was just a baby. She was born in 82. And so we got the Apple IIe, and that was a floppy disk. And one of my girls that I coached in high school went to the University of Minnesota, and she wanted to learn to use that, so she said she'd babysit for nothing. She sat down at the keyboard, and just like a damn Gatling gun, she was typing on that thing. She could type 110 words a minute.
Whoa.
And I said, shit. Anyway, it took 5 minutes for the computer to catch up to her typing.
Wow.
She was typing so fast, then she'd just sit there and wait, and all the stuff she typed, then it would wait, it just gradually fill the screen with what she typed. But it caught it all. And that was the Apple IIe. And then the second one,
Because, well, back then,
it was slow.
well, when the first typewriters were out, it would type with you, no matter what, really.
Yeah. When you typed with a typewriter, what you typed, you got right now.
So
With the computer, you could, even me typing my 56 words a minute with 10 errors, I was faster than the computer, because it would basically take forever for it to, on the early ones, basically to keep up with your typing.
So a couple of the fastest typewriter people.
Oh yeah,
typists,
I'll type a
they
computer.
could type even
Yeah,
faster.
easily.
So the other one was limiting, not only to delete things, but it limited.
The thing it could do that nothing else it couldn't do, the typewriter couldn't store it in memory. I think they had teletypes and stuff that could at the time. Because I remember my first job, because they didn't have the equipment, was a teletype operator. And you didn't store it on a machine, but you stored it on paper tape. And that paper tape you could use for storage. Where with a typewriter, see, you couldn't. There was no storage. So, like, if you wanted to redo it with a mistake, you have to retype the whole thing. See, that was the advantage of the computer, is that memory storage. You know, you could store information where before that you couldn't.
So when it came to your military job, for what your job was before then, how much more were you able to be productive at your job?
Oh, well, the thing is, I was when I was doing message trafficking, that was teletype, okay? But when I was doing the other part, I was repair. So productivity wasn't an issue, because you really weren't producing anything. What you were doing was fixing things for something that somebody else was using and making sure they kept running. So it was kind of one of those things where awesome. As far as production line, there was no production line to do anything. The way that when I first used it, where it had an impact, was the Macintosh. The Macintosh came out in, I think, 1984, 85, and we used it on my dissertation for my doctorate. Kathy typed everything on there.
Kathy,
My wife.
Okay.
And we didn't know we lost the first 3 chapters on it, and we didn't know we could recover it. So she was all mad as hell because she had to type it all over again. But it was still in memory, but we didn't know that. We didn't know enough about it at the time. So the first 2 real computers were the Apple IIe and the Macintosh that had. The Macintosh saved, you talk about people going on education, that saved their ass. I don't know about Scott, but Jesus Christ. When you...
Scott.
He did his dissertation just about the same time, didn't he?
We have a second individual here in our interview. I forgot to note at the beginning of this interview, I have 2 gentlemen here that are laying tile because it wasn't going to lay itself. So who is this other gentleman that I'm
Scott Gorman.
Scott Gorman
Hyper department.
Teaches in Hyper.
teaches in what?
HHPR.
Health, physical education, and recreation.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, thank you for joining or working, I guess.
Well, he's established through my
Scott,
my dissertation.
Something's wrong. Okay, just let me check.
My dissertation was done in 82, 83.
Yeah.
In our school, mine was the last one. It was typed, and then the next person got on the computer.
So you had to type this?
I had to pay a lady, like she typed like 7 or 8 copies. Every time the committee would make you take a chart out, the next 50 pages had to be retyped. So I had to pay to have my dissertation typed probably 7 to 9 times.
And see, I didn't.
No, when they came out with the new chart, this chart was what?
Okay, but your review committee on the dissertation will tell you to put something in and take something out. So if I'm on page 95 of a 150 page dissertation, I want to take table 52 out. Well, when you pull that out, everything behind it has to be retyped.
I understand.
Which is on the computer, you don't have that problem, quite honestly.
Yep,
See-
I understand. I'm tracking.
Yeah.
And see, that was a huge difference. Big difference. My wife's dad got his doctorate at University of Colorado, and he had to type his in triplicate on the old. What would they call that stuff? Duplicating stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he had to have his typed a dozen times. In fact, his first dissertation they said wasn't good enough, so he had to do 2. And you talk about, frustrating.
Big time.
Big time. See, now with what I did, because of the Kathy typing it, we could just make changes and change it and print it back out again on the computer and just print it once after you made the adjustments. It was huge. The Macintosh was probably the most important invention of our time. The Apple IIe probably just before it, but the Macintosh was much, much better and huge improvement. And we bought that in 1984, I believe. And it basically saved my life. Well, my wife's. And but it was huge. And then after that, I don't remember what came out with the Macintosh. Then IBM came out with a bunch of stuff. But we got into education. Everything in education was Apple. And then when you got here, everything in industry besides education, even at Pitt State, was all IBM. And so I was doing we first started drafting and drawing stuff on the Apple, and I just had to switch to IBM because the Apple just didn't support that kind of stuff, drafting, as well as the IBM did.
So IBM excelled in that portion.
At that time, yes.
At that time.
I'm not sure if Apple's ever really caught up to them in terms of drafting, like AutoCAD.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So, yeah, for the most part, I think.
Was there another drawing program that was that predated MicroStation?
I don't.
Because I believe,
I
if
don't
I'm not
know.
mistaken, MicroStation predates AutoCAD or
Yeah.
Autodesk.
I was never into the IBM stuff at the beginning, so I don't know.
Okay.
The Apple, when it first came out, we used it for all sorts of things. Some of the people, of course, got better at it. And education, it got used for graphics. Huge. It was huge for graphics, for making things for educational materials. It was probably the best there was. And then, but for IBM, they excelled in, I don't know what you want to call it, drafting, construction. That was kind of their thing. And there was always, at the beginning, there was this huge thing between Apple and IBM about but what you saw was, and what it kind of developed was, IBM ended up being used for almost everything in industry, and Apple ended up being used for almost everything in education. So that's kind of where it went for a long time. Now, I'm not sure that there's any difference between the two. Just Scott,
Early on, that was-
you still using Apple?
Do I?
Scott, you
Yeah,
still
we're
using
all-
Apple?
I'm on Mac.
You're on Mac?
We're half and half on our department.
Yeah.
Most people in education,
Yeah.
initially, it was 99% Macintosh.
But see, when I went there, it was because,
We got more money?
yes, you do,
Where?
in the car. In the back of the truck, there's another 5 gallons of Thinset.
All right.
But,
I think it's a good. This is almost we're nearing a good conclusion. So
Yeah, I mean, the computers, for me, okay, and that's basically the dissertation. And then the other part was, which I do here, is the IBM supported Chief Architect, which was a residential design program. I looked into something that was easy to use for designing homes, and we tried soft plan and all sorts of them, and the only one that really ended up being worthwhile using, was really efficient, was for me, was Chief Architect, and it was an IBM plan. So there again was IBM. See, so you know, I grew up on a Macintosh, and I preferred a Macintosh, but I ended up just having to go with an IBM because of the stuff that I wanted to do with the computer.
yeah.
And right now, see, if you want to take a look at it, see, I draw all the plans for Habitat for Humanity. I draw, this is my 9th house, probably the 15th that I've drawn and built. And it takes me, you know, maybe an hour or two to draw up a set of plans, and then constantly tweak them, but it doesn't take you long with that. And you can see I've got 9 of them here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they're small and efficient, but for me, they're absolutely fantastic. I don't have to have anybody help me with the plans. I don't have to have help me all the way through, except for a few items on heating and air, taping and stuff. That's all I hire out. So, but just because of the computer, I don't have to go wait for somebody. You know, I draw it up, I print it out. And when this house started, I hadn't even decided I was going to do it till 3 days before I decided I was going to come over here. I went and drew the plans up, made a plot plan out of it, took them down to the city, had them approved. Now, I didn't even get the approval yet before I was digging the footing, 3 days later. Not many people can say that.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to wait on anybody, because Chief Architect and computer. Yeah. So yeah, you
All
do
right.
that, yeah.
So, to try to gear this more personally, where do you think the future of personal, well, this is a business essentially, for small businesses, where do you see the future of the computer expanding?
The thing is, what I think is, my personal opinion is that they've gotten all these people, like right now they're having a big deal with Apple and the locking of that iPhone. I think they're getting so good at this that they're going to make so many applications where it's going to be so easy for you to use. They're all going to be a voice command. You're going to be a Star Wars technology in 10 years. You want to get into your car, say unlock my car, you walk up to it. You want to get into your house, you walk up to the house, say unlock the door. I think everything's going to be voice command in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's going to make things ridiculously easy just to live. And then the point is, do we really need it? We can't unlock the door.
You can get hacked that way too.
Yeah, and that's the other part that's scary, is because it's created a whole new area of law enforcement and crimes that never existed 10 years ago. They can steal your identity, they can steal everything they want.
And another point with all this technology, and I'm going to refer back to a lecture, with all this great advancement, technology both still breeds good and bad outcomes.
Yeah,
no matter how good people can see what can come from it, there's still bad that can come from.
The change isn't necessarily good or bad. It's usually just different. As we get older, we use less and less of the technologies that young kids grow up with and think they gotta have. For instance, they think they can't get by without it. What was really funny, and you'll like this, okay? John, I don't know, business manager, whatever his name is, and Tom Bryant, former president of the university, was down at coffee this morning, okay? And the whole generation talks about when you sit down to a meal, the kids sit there with their iPhone and everybody's got the damn iPhone on, nobody talks or anything else. And what was funny as hell this morning, we were sitting there and everybody's phone rang and two of us were the only ones not on the phone. The other four were sitting there with their phones out talking on the damn phone while everybody else was sitting there. And I was looking at this, I said, Vern, I said, the other guy's named Vern there, and he said, look at this, we bitch at the kids for doing this, and just take a look. These guys are all 70 years oold. They're doing the same damn thing. They're sitting there in a group, with a group setting, having a conversation, every one of them with their damn phone out. Yeah. So you can't bitch, it's not the kids anymore, it's the 70-year-old kid. The 70-year-old kids are doing it.
70-year-old kids, yeah.
Yeah, they're all, Tom Bryant's 75. And they're all doing it. I laughed like hell. I thought it was the funniest thing yourself.
Well, I appreciate you making time, or partially making time to attack
I
this.
made you come get the time.
Yeah, I had to come over here and get the time with you. So, with that, I think just in case it comes back on me, may I use your voice and write this down and publish it in a school interview?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was Scott that said yes. All right.
Hey, thanks for coming over here.
Hey, no, it was a lot of fun.